Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And boy, is it good to be back. Regular viewers will know I've been away for a couple of weeks on holiday. First time in what seems like 100 years, but in actual fact, it's about 3.5, 4 years I haven't been away. We needed it. It was great, and I think you can tell. I look at the monitor here. You can tell from the colour I've really caught the sun. And God, we're back, we're refreshed, and we're ready to hit the ground running. It's a new year, and so happy New Year to all our viewers, especially the ones that have hit the subscribe button. To those of you who have yet to hit that subscribe button, as I say, start the year, New Year's resolution, hit the button, don't miss any content. We're going to go through, show these people up in authority for the corruption, the stupidity, sometimes just the plain evil that they are. So hit that subscribe button, let's start the year and let's build the channel, let's make the voice loud. Now, like I say, we're back, we're going to start away, we're business as usual, and we're starting with the police. Of course we are, because Scottish police now refuse to use the term P. We all know what word I'm on about. It's the most awful people, those that do the worst possible things. It begins with P, ends with file. Let's just say that YouTube does not like that word. You use that word and bang, you're demonetised. You've gone. But we know what the word is. So the Scottish police are using a term that's used by the far left, or virtually all socialists, by people who have this particular affliction, shall we say, by their fellow travellers, by people who want to legitimise this kind of behaviour and normalise it. And that term is minor attracted people. And it's a way of trying, like I say, to normalise the most awful things that you can do to children, because these people keep pushing this agenda, which is why, for example, schools keep bringing in things like drag acts. They're trying to sexualise children at every stage of their development, and they're pushing this kind of education, that kind of thing. And you have to wonder why the predominantly left schooling system and the police, who in Scotland are controlled by the SNP, and we all know what the P in SNP stands for, they're pushing this now because they all feel that that kind of behaviour, that particular, shall we say, attraction, that particular perversion needs to be normalised and acceptable, because they're coming after your children and you know what they want to do to them. So let's look at this. I'm going to put myself in the corner for the first time this year, and we're going to take a look at these, well, I don't know, are they naive? Are they evil? Let's make our mind up and look at this article. Here goes. So, Scotland's woke police call the Ps minor attracted people in an EU-linked report. And there's the sort of people you get in Police Scotland, because they all have to wear their rainbows on their cheeks rather than actually doing their goddamn job. Oh, look at us. We'll signal our virtues. We'll show you how we're on your side. Won't actually catch any criminals, of course, but hey, that's not our problem anymore. We're just going to do this. Sick. The Chief Constable of Police Scotland is under fire for referring to Ps by their preferred term, minor attracted people, in a European Union linked report. In the year-end report for 2021-22, Chief Constable Ian Livingston said his Specialist Crime Division for Public Protection, that's a joke, had engaged in the Horizon Europe project, and that the project's main agenda is to make sure that Ps have all the children they need. Is to develop understanding and approach to avoid the victimisation of children by engaging minor attracted people. Now, the correct term for these is nonce bastards. And that's it. That's it. That's all they are. They are just nonces. They are not minor attracted people, because that gives them dignity and an identity. The only identity they need is to have what they are tattooed on their forehead and released into the wild, so people can know exactly what these people are. And it providing them, the Ps, with the necessary support, treatment and guidance to help prevent criminal activities. Well, of course, there is only one correct support, treatment and guidance. You guide them into an operating theatre, and you treat them by hacking off everything below the waist. And then if there's nothing there for them to, use to excite them, then they're no longer a threat, are they? Of course, you could argue that they still have fingers. But again, they can be removed. There's no limit to the things that can be removed. and then you lock them up. It's as simple as that. I don't think anyone has got any kind of, shall we say, sympathy for these people. There's no one that wants to see them freely walking around with access to children. And yet, well, yes, I say nobody, not normal people. Of course, the SNP does, which is why the SNP is bringing laws in so that men can then call themselves women and go straight into a changing room where there's young girls, because the SNP are all for this. That's the trouble. You have a government in Scotland that's actually all for this. And that's what they are. It is my personal belief that the senior functionaries and senior officers of the SNP are every single one of them. Now, might be wrong, but it is my belief that they are all Ps. Every single one of them. I could be wrong. There's certainly some that maybe aren't. But I think predominantly they must be. There's no other explanation as to why they are pushing this kind of thing. Anyway, while it was some time before the incendiary language in the report registered with the public, its use of the extremely controversial MAP term has provoked a predictable backlash after coming to wider attention. Of course it's predictable, because you can predict that normal people don't like it. Normal people don't want this kind of behaviour normalised. Normal people don't want their children to become the victims of what is increasingly seen as normalised behaviour, which involves complete strangers, grown men predominantly, accessing children for their own gratuitous pleasure. Most Scots, and indeed most human beings, we will extend that, will find any attempt to soften the language around this particular crime in official guidance to be deeply disturbing and wrong. Of course it is. Independent social worker consultant Maggie Mellon further warned that adopting the MAPS language ran the risk of normalising and therefore perhaps decriminalising P. And that's the push. This isn't accidental. This isn't accidental. This is the end, the end function of everything that's going on here. Everything that's happening here is a function designed to decriminalise and normalise this behaviour. And this is what happens when you vote the SNP into power, because that's what the P stands for, every single one of them. They almost all voted to ensure that gender law went through, that people who commit can just simply claim they're a woman now. If you're a woman in Scottish law, you cannot actually be done for penetrative R. It's very weird. Even though you might have a full penis, but you're a woman in law. It's just ridiculous. There's no protection for women. There's no protection for children. But this is not as an accidental, unforeseen circumstance of all the laws they've brought in. This is the end game. This is what they're wanting. And when you look at the anti-hate laws they've brought in, you can't even complain about it. If you complain about it, you go to prison for hate speech. That's what the SNP have engendered and deliberately done to Scotland. Condemnation, anyway, has not just been local to Scotland, where the devolved government, roughly equivalent to the US state government, is run by the left separatist Scottish National Party. That's not what the P stands for. However, how about we don't do this? Minor attracted people equals predators, plain and simple, urged Canadian celebrity psychologist Jordan Peterson. Australian commentator Rita Panahi, I hope I pronounced that right, meanwhile warned that the adoption of the P's preferred terminology, this is what you're saying is, no, that's what they want to call themselves, so we'll call them that because we don't want to upset them. Upset them? I'm going to leave a gap there so you know exactly what I want to do to them and how I want to do it, because I can't say it out loud because YouTube, gap, things happen. We cannot allow them to dictate to us what they are called. We know what they are. Every single one of them. And that's what's happening here. So anyway, Police Scotland does not use the term minor attracted person, insisted a spokesman. Well, that spokesman is lying, because that is exactly the term they used. And so, you can't believe anything that comes out of the mouths of these people. He said the reference in the Chief Constable's assessment of policing performance was in the context of Police Scotland's engagement with the Horizon Project EU consortium to tackle CSA and exploitation, but apparently contradicting themselves by confirming that they did indeed use the term. So they're liars. They said, we don't use this term except when we use this term in a report. So you're using the term, you lying fuckers. The police in Scotland are as guilty of the SNP. The police, don't trust them. Don't ever trust a policeman. They are pro-P. You can tell that because they're using this term. They've admitted they're using it. They claim they're not using it, and they're claiming they're not using it by admitting that they're using it. And so they are fellow travellers. They are supporting this terminology. They are Ps. Every single one of them. They're wearing a blue uniform in Scotland. Don't let them anywhere near your children. They are assisting and aiding the Ps of this world. That is the problem you've got in Scotland. You have a government that's pro-P, a government that doesn't want to protect women, a government that wants to actually endanger women and children. It's bringing in laws that will actively endanger women and children, and now it's pushing for the police to be encouraging Ps. What have they got to do so that the people of Scotland go, why the fuck are we voting for these bastards? Why aren't we putting these bastards off a street lamp? You know what I mean. There should be little danglings off street lamps, every single one of them. If it's your child that's used, abused, or whatever, that happens to your child, what are you going to sit there and go, well, it's okay, it was the SNP. I voted for the SNP, so I'm perfectly acceptable and happy to hand my child over to be, exploited like that for that stranger's gratification. Because if you're voting SNP, that's exactly what you're saying. That's what you are doing. So Scotland, for God's sake, do something and get rid of those evil bastards who are coming for your kids. Right? It's so anger making. They would, in any normal society, let's put it this way, in any normal society, these people would be doing time. They would be seen for what they are, a direct and immediate threat to women and children. They would be on a register. In fact, every SNP MP needs now to be put on that register. Every policeman in Scotland needs to be put on that register. Because I haven't seen one policeman resign over this. Not one policeman has said, I'm not going to be part of an organisation that wants to normalise P. And if they're not resigning, if they're saying, no, this is fine, I'm happy to stay part of this organisation that's attempting to normalise P, then they are Ps. Every single one of them. Any cop in Scotland who hasn't resigned is a P. Every SNP who voted for this is a P. Vote them out. Fire them. Prosecute them. Put them on a register. They're all in on it. Every single one. Scotland, it's up to you. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to come up and round off. But it is so anger-inducing. Having had a calm down, and only a little bit of a calm down, it must be said, I've come to the conclusion that the years and years of basically brainwashing and Stockholming that's gone on in Scotland, there's people in Scotland who will follow the most awful things and think it normal and right. And this has been seen before. This is seen in the 30s in Germany. And that's what's happening in Scotland now. You are being turned into a nation that accepts the most awful things because it's piecemeal, it's small, it's tiny, and you've taken a step and you've taken a step and you've got to the point where even if you realise that it's wrong, you don't want to feel foolish by saying, actually, I've been fooled. I was going along with this, and so you will continue down this line. This is very much like an experiment that went on with psychology, where people were harming what they thought were harming potential prisoners, and it turns out they weren't. It was all acting, but it was to see how far people went. And people will go quite some way in order to please those in authority. And I think that's what's happening. But those in authority in Scotland are evil bastards. And there's no other way for it. When you look, and you don't need to think that this is a conspiracy theory. Use the evidence of your own eyes. Use what you see around you. Look to why. Why are they pushing it so that men can call themselves women and immediately access rooms where young girls will be? Why are they bringing in all these weird sexualization lessons in schools? Why are they getting this acceptable language pushed and spread with regards to the worst kind of people? It's not me. I'm not making this up. I'm reporting it. It's there. The evidence is there in black and white. Use your eyes, Scotland. And if you vote for SNP, look to your children before you put the X in the box and ask what exactly you're voting for. Thank you. I'm going to stop now and come up. But there we are.